Hello and welcome to Fearless DIY Music. My name is Tristan Lass, and today I'd like to talk about solid-state amps. When I started playing guitar in the late 80s, mid 80s, I used the kind of amps that a kid could afford. I used a Gorilla amp, which was my first, and then I had a Crate, both of which were solid-state and had really terrible distortion sounds on tap. The Crates even had chorus built in. So they weren't the greatest amps in the world. When I upgraded to my 1965 Fender Showman head, I was just like, oh wow, this sounds incredible. Now the problem is, I don't play live anymore. And I kept trying to use, my 1965 Showman head through a 4x12 Ampeg cabinet in my studio and out here in the shop. And I quickly discovered that I couldn't get it down to a volume that was satisfying. If you crank that amp down too much, the tone just kind of disappears. I also have two Fender Pro Juniors, which I love, little Class A tube amps, and I use those quite a bit, but I also was running into the fact that they needed to be turned up louder than I wanted to sound good. Which led me to about a year ago when I decided, I think that I might try a vintage solid-state amp. Not like a Crate, not like a Gorilla, not like all the, cheapies that used to be around back in the day, 35 years ago. So I went online and I bought this for under 200 bucks. This is an acoustic control core, 117, just a little combo amp. It came with a 12-inch speaker that I didn't really care for that much, so it has been modded. I put a 10-inch speaker in it. Kind of counterintuitive, but the 10-inch actually gave it a little bit more warmth for whatever reasons. So that's what I'm running this through right now, or what I'm running in this amp at the moment. And I found that I love the sound, and I can play at very low volume without having to compromise on tone. This thing sounds pretty much the same cranked or at low volume. So, let's just take a little listen. And I think it sounds good, and that's clean. That's got absolutely nothing going through it. And it's manageable. Like, I'm sitting here next to it while I'm recording this. I've got one mic here in the room. It's recording my voice. It's recording the amp. It's not uncomfortable. And the cool thing about this amp is that it has a master volume right here, and then it has a volume on the a volume here on the single channel that you can crank to get like more of a distortion sound out of it. So you can go. And I really like that as just like, let's say you had no pedals or whatever, you can still get a distortion sound out of it if you want it. Now, it's not the ideal distortion that I would be going after, but if you're interested in getting a solid-state amp, I would strongly advise getting one that has a master volume and then just has, the regular volume that gives you your gain. So that's a really nice feature on this particular amp. It's got treble, mid, bass. It's got a bright switch, which you do not need. This amp is quite bright on its own. And as you can hear, I've got the reverb on right now, I think. And the reverb's kind of unique. It doesn't really sound like any other reverb I've ever heard. And then maybe we should just take a quick listen. And that's just with, dry. And I find that tone satisfying as well. And like I said, the beauty of it is that I can operate it at low volume. It gives me a sound that most people don't have. These days, everybody is, looking for that like really low wattage bedroom version of a tube amp. Those are cool, and I'm sure they're great. I haven't had many opportunities to play those types of amps. But what I like about Solid State is just it's bulletproof, the simplicity of the entire playing experience, and being able to control that volume in a very meaningful way. So after I got this amp, I decided, well, I should get one for my studio. And rather than go with another acoustic control core amp, I bought an old Peavey Bandit. And this is it's a 1982. And the cool thing about it is that it has a dual foot switch where you can hit the lead circuit, which basically does the same thing as the master volume to volume on this one, and you can get some crunch out of it. And the crunch isn't like, that awful can distortion that comes in so many solid state amps. It feels like natural breakup. And that's a cool and great feature to have on that little amp. And it also has reverb. And that has become like my main amp in my studio. The tone on that one, I think, is actually superior to this one. That's why this one lives in the shop. And that one's down in the studio because I will actually be recording extensively with that little amp. And all I have to do is just put like a clean boost into that gain channel, or the gain option, and it gives me a really nice kind of like, I hate to say it, but transparent overdrive, nice feel to it. And I swear it feels as good as a tube amp if you have the right combination of pedals going into it. And even on its own, just hitting that boost option. And what I thought I would do is, let's see here, let's go down to the bridge pickup on this. So if I put a boost on it, you get a little bit of hair, and then a mild overdrive. And you get some good distortion sounds out of that. Put on a little bit of reverb here, go back up to the neck, do a little bit of leady stuff. And like I said, it sounds good. It sounds solid. And the thing that I want to kind of impress upon everybody is that there's a lot of boutique stuff out there. There's a lot of really cool gear out there in the world right now. A lot of channels cover all these things, and then I look at the price tag at the end of the day, and I'm like, oh, geez, well, sure, that's cool. And it's considered affordable at like $500, $600, $700, $800. I get that. I know that that's the way the market has shifted over the years. The thing is that if you want to get a really good sound that doesn't sound like everything else out there at an affordable price, vintage solid state amps are a tremendous option and a tremendous value. Like I said, I bought this amp for under $200, shipped from Guitar Center. Used, obviously. It's a 1977. And then my 82 Peavey, I found that just in a local shop. And I bought it for $200 even. And it sounds incredible. I mean, like, that little amp has become like my go-to. And I think that people should really explore the idea of going ahead and checking out old vintage solid state amps. I mean, stuff from the mid 70s on, stopping around 1985, 86, you can find a lot of cool solid state stuff because they weren't building them to be disposable. Back in those days, they were trying to make amps that were designed to replace tube amps, to just, give you a trouble-free experience, to be roadworthy, and at an affordable price relative to what tube stuff cost back then. This amp, Acoustic Control Core, a lot of famous people used these back in the day. I'm thinking The Doors, and also I think John Paul Jones ran an Acoustic Control Core rig, and a lot of other name artists all explored vintage solid state stuff, because back then it was brand new technology and it was cutting edge. And this stuff is out there and it's affordable. And you can have, I can't afford who can afford like a Plexi or any of the stuff from back in the day that's tube based. All of it's gotten outrageously expensive. If I tried to buy my 65 head now, I wouldn't be able to afford it. Not even close. But these little amps you can pick up for literally nothing. $200, and you're not going down that amp modeling or the digital road either. You're still playing, transistors, capacitors, it's all mechanical. It is, a true vintage experience when you're playing these amps. And it's a lot of fun. And the best part is that they sound pretty much the same cranked or at very low volumes. So if you're looking for something to be able to play in your bedroom, or you live in an apartment, you have, volume concerns just in general, or like me, you just don't want to blast your ears out anymore after all those years of playing on stage, a vintage solid state amp is a great option. And it's totally affordable. It's attainable. Anybody can grab one of these. And so that's my rant for today. I just wanted to extol the virtues of solid state and encourage people to go out there and look on the used market and find one of these little guys for yourself. I mean, they don't cost much, they sound good, and they take pedals just tremendously. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Please hit the subscribe button, and I look forward to bringing you more videos soon. Take care.